Last week, I gave you the first 6-week plan to get your financial house in order and out of reactive mode. But now it's time to go a little bit deeper. Weeks 7 through 12, that's where we start building with a purpose in mind, our future. And yes, some of these steps, they take a little money to complete. But there's no set amounts, and we're not talking big amounts either. Whatever amount you can start with, let that be your claim to a better future financially. So here's your next 6 weeks in our 90-day plan to fix your finances. Week number 7 is an insurance checkup. Have you looked at how much you're spending on insurance lately? I'm sure you have, because everybody's has gone up. Now here's the part that the big insurance companies don't want to talk about, but they're losing profit margin big time. Natural disasters are increasing. So are accidents involving $60,000 and $70,000 vehicles. Chronic illness is exploding. These companies, whether they're auto insurers, home insurers, health insurers, they're oozing out money left and right. And they're not going to do it alone. They're going to take us right down with them. Okay, so that was bleak. So what do? First level task is lose the loyalty. You've got to be willing to jump ship. Just because you've been with an insurance company for 20, 30 years, they're not going to treat you special because of that. In fact, they'll use that loyalty against you. They figure, oh, you're not going to leave. You're going to stay with us forever. Let's target that group of people and raise their rates even more. So you've got to shop around, and you've got to be willing to move on if you can find a better price, which you probably can. Another thing is to raise those deductibles, and you may have to raise them to an uncomfortable level. The truth is you don't really want to make small claims on auto or homeowners insurance anymore anyway, because when you do, they'll just make you pay for it. They'll raise your rates. They'll even possibly cancel you outright or choose not to renew you. Okay, also in week 7, let's think about our level up task. We want to get a mindset shift and stop insuring fear. Fear has momentum, and when it starts taking over, you start insuring everything. Just take a hard look at everything you're paying for. Pet insurance, identity theft insurance, accidental death, even extended home warranties that cover everything except the fine print. Just cancel those extra insurance plans and reroute all of that money into a dedicated savings account that you'll use if something happens. Be your own insurance company without all the fine print. Okay, week number 8, we're going to talk about a few simple ways to save on your taxes. Now, obviously, taxes are very complicated, and everyone's situation is different. And just to be clear, I am not a tax professional. I'm just sharing a few things that I've discovered myself while doing some research for my own situation. So let's first talk about tax brackets. And I'm going to pop up the 2025 current income tax brackets here on the screen. Now, what you're seeing in these amounts is what's considered taxable income. And that is your income after the standard deduction has come off, after any itemized deductions, credits, 401k, or traditional IRA contributions. Now here's the level 1 move for this task. If your taxable income is on the lower end of one of the higher next level tax brackets, it could be a really good time for you to increase your 401k or traditional IRA contributions. Even just bumping it up a small amount could be all that it takes to drop you back down to where you're paying less of that higher tax rate. Now, if you get your insurance through the marketplace, at healthcare.gov, there's also a second reason that this matters. Now, your premiums for healthcare on the marketplace, they're based on your MAGI, your modified adjusted gross income, which is a little different from the taxable income that we just talked about. That is your gross income after 401k contributions, tax-deferred contributions come off. So if you want a lower premium, or if you want to be eligible for more credits from the marketplace insurance, then putting more into your 401k and dropping that MAGI a little bit will help you do that. Now, if you want a level up task on this and you want to get maybe a little nerdy with it, there's a free calculator on NerdWallet's website. I'll leave the link in the description below. But it's called a Federal Income Tax Calculator. And it's pretty basic. I mean, you're just plugging in some, basic numbers here, and it'll spit out an estimate of what your tax bill is going to be. But what I like about it is that you can kind of play around with the numbers a little bit. You can try adding an extra $1,000 in 401k contributions and just see, how does that affect your tax bill? Is it worth it? You can also see that, what would it take to get you out of the higher tax bracket, if that's your goal. So as you can see, increasing those 401k contributions can do quite a few things for us in the present day. It can decrease our overall tax bill. It can decrease our health insurance premiums. And that's not even to mention what it's going to do for us in the future by putting more in our retirement accounts. And Gen X, we're getting close to retirement anyway. So any of this extra money that you can find to put in those 401ks, you don't have to leave it in there for very much longer if you don't want to. But I know some of you may be saying, but what about all the taxes we're going to have to pay in retirement? And I've talked a lot about this in many of my videos, just trying to make all of us be aware that those looming tax bills are going to come for us eventually. But sometimes you just have to weigh your options. If you're earning more now than you will be in retirement, which a lot of Gen Xers in our 50s, you may be earning more now than you ever have, then it makes sense to maybe save on taxes now because you're in a higher tax bracket than you will be when you retire. Or if it makes the difference between a $200 a month health insurance plan on the marketplace versus $800 a month for that same, crappy bronze plan. Then yeah, maybe waiting to pay the taxes later makes a lot more sense. But just do your research. Talk to a tax pro if you can. Don't just take my word for it. The tax code actually gives us lots of legal ways to avoid paying taxes. But they're not broadcasting all of that out there. You've got to kind of dig for it or talk to a professional. But you owe it to yourself to be strategic about how much tax you pay. Okay, week number 9 is just Roth everything. Okay, let's talk some more about taxes, but in reverse, sort of. And you might be wondering, why would I want to put money into a retirement account if I don't get a tax break on it today? And the answer lies in the magic of a Roth IRA. Now, even though you don't get a tax break today, the long-term payoff can be huge. Let's say you open a Roth IRA and you make a one-time contribution of $1,000. You invest in some index funds. You leave it alone. It grows for 5 years. End of 5 years, let's say you have $1,500. Now that extra $500 in growth, that growth is completely tax-free. You will never owe taxes on that $500. Not now, not later, never. And since you already paid taxes on the initial $1,000, you never have to worry about taxes on that again either. Now let's fast forward to retirement. Let's say you want to retire at 60 or 62. There are some big advantages to having tax-free income. Maybe you want to keep your income low so that you can qualify for health insurance on the marketplace. Because remember, Medicare doesn't kick in until 65, so you've got to cover those 5 or 3 years somehow. And speaking of Medicare, if you're within 2 years of enrolling in it, you'll want to keep your income below a certain level to not trigger an IRMAA penalty, which over a certain amount, Medicare will charge you extra for their premiums. Now, if all you have is 401k money or tax-deferred money to live off of between the years of 60 and 65, then there may not be any way to adjust that income. And that's what a Roth IRA will do for you. It gives you flexibility. And you might choose to, mix it up a little bit. Do a little bit of 401k withdrawals, a little bit of Roth. You might do all Roth. It just kind of depends on the numbers. So your first level task, if you haven't already, this is the week to open your own Roth account. Just go to Vanguard or Fidelity or Charles Schwab. Open one there. You can put, I believe Fidelity will let you put as little as, $50, $100 to open one. But don't just open a Roth account and put the money in. You've got to invest it. I've heard of people making this mistake. They put the money in there, and 10 years later they wonder why it's not done anything, but they hadn't taken that extra step. You got to make sure you invest it in the market. And if money is really tight and you don't have the extra to put in the Roth, then maybe you consider shrinking down your 401k contribution just a little bit, putting that extra into the Roth. And let's go to our level up task. Once you've got that Roth and it's rolling, maybe you've had one for years, you've been putting money in it, it's time to ask yourself a few questions. How much of your total retirement savings is in tax deferred and then post-tax? Just get a rough idea of the ratio that you have. Many financial experts, they recommend at least 20 to 30% of your total retirement savings being in something that is post-tax, like a Roth IRA, while having around 70% in tax-deferred money, such as 401ks. So how are you doing based on those ratios? Now, week number 10, we're going to look at our retirement vision. Let's zoom out a little bit and look at the big picture here. Do you have an actual retirement plan? A vision. And even if you don't plan to retire, you need a plan B in case things don't work out the way you planned. And today, there are more ways than ever to retire. There's no one-size-fits-all approach. So let's start with 2 practical steps. First task, go to socialsecurity.gov, their website, and you can see down to the penny what you'll receive in Social Security benefits based on whatever age you retire. You can choose any age between 62 and 70. There's a graph. You can play around with the numbers. Now, based on that amount per month, how does that look in regards to, what you think your monthly expenses are going to be in retirement? Think about how much you're going to supplement that amount with your retirement savings. And when you put in your Social Security number, you might not be as far off as you thought you would be. And the second task is, what is your big number, in your head? Not just a wishful thinking number, but something realistic, something that's motivating you. Whatever that number is, whether it's 200,000, 500,000, 1 million, 2 million. Write that number down. Put that number on your nightstand. Tape it on your mirror. Put it in as a reminder on your phone to pop up every day. And every time you see that number, you just stop and pause for a minute and let it sink in. Now, this isn't just magical thinking or woo-woo talk here. It's about training your brain to recognize and see, visualize, a goal, a target in mind. It also gets your brain used to the idea of possessing that amount of money, even if it's just on a piece of paper right now. And then your extra bonus task for this week is to grab a notebook or the Notes app on your phone and answer these questions. What would an ideal weekday look like in retirement? Where do you want to live? How would you structure your days? Routines? Do you have some specific goals besides catching up on sleep? I do want to check that off first. I am looking forward to that. Maybe it's to get healthier. Maybe it's to improve family relationships. Don't just think about these things. Write them out. This is your vision. The clearer you make it, the easier it is to reverse engineer the life you're working towards. Okay, week number 11, we're going to talk about your estate wishes. We may not be able to plan how and when we die, but there are a few things that we can do ahead of time to make sure that our wishes are followed and that our loved ones are not left in chaos. Okay, your first level task is to get your designations in order. Just grab a piece of paper and write down every single financial account that you have. I'm talking about every bank account, every investment brokerage firm, your 401k account, your life insurance policies, maybe a safe deposit box. Then go through each one of them. If you have one bank, but you have 2 checking accounts or 2 or 3 savings accounts, you've got to go through each one of these and you've got to check who you have designated as the beneficiary. And I know with some banks, it's actually called a POD form or a TOD form, which is payable on death, transfer on death, whatever they call it, whether it's a beneficiary designation or a POD form, check those. Make sure that first, have you even designated anyone? Is the person that you have designated, are they still living? Make sure it's not someone still listed that you have no desire for them to inherit anything of yours. Because remember, whoever you have listed as a beneficiary, whoever is on those PODs, TOD forms, those supersede anything that you state in your will. In your will, you may say that you want your Roth IRA to go to your son. But if you have a parent or an ex-spouse listed as the beneficiary on that Roth account, that's who's going to get it. Also, any asset that is jointly owned, such as a checking account, savings account, a house, upon the death of one, it will automatically pass to the other joint owner, regardless of what is in your will. And that may be just fine with you, but just know those things in advance. You may have to clean a few things up. And also this week, if you haven't already, just at least create a simple will. And if your finances aren't that complex, you may be able to just go to a website like trustandwill.com and get it done there. Now, if you want to advance up another level on this week's task, just create a simple letter of instruction. Just a one-pager, something that you can write to your loved ones or your executor. And on that, it just spells out, where to find important documents. Just listing out all of the accounts, the account numbers, your login information. Also include any personal wishes that you may have. regarding your funeral or memorial or donations. Just store it somewhere safe and let someone you trust know where to find it. Okay, week number 12, healthy investments. We're wrapping up this 90-day journey with what might be the most important task, the most important investment of all. And it's not exactly financial. It's your health. You can have a solid emergency fund. You can manage your money wisely. You can pay off all your debts, save for the future, and still, there's one thing that can come along and blow it all up. Bad health. Whether it's sudden illness, chronic disease, a bad accident, a stress breakdown, nothing can drain your money faster than that. So what's our first level task on this? This week, just work on one small thing that supports your physical well-being. While you're making your grocery list, add more fruits and vegetables to it. For the next 7 days, walk every day, 20, 30 minutes if you can. Go to bed 30 minutes earlier every night this week. Or, load one of the free breathing apps or meditation apps on your phone. Just one thing and focus on that for the next 7 days. Because no matter how many times you've set up good habits in the past, the world will always try to pull you out of them. Slowly, subtly, one excuse at a time. And when you're ready to level up your health game, look at creating your own personalized fitness routine that you can do at home. Just make it simple. But watch a few, YouTubes. Maybe do a little research on the best exercises that fit your situation. Maybe you have, a weak lower body and you want to work on that. Maybe you have a stiff back or, arthritis. Maybe you're short of breath. You want to work on your cardio a little bit. You know your body best. You know what you need to focus on. And let me just throw this in as well. Strengthening our core, that cannot be overlooked. If you have a strong core, then your whole body will be strong. This is your reminder to get back in the game. If it improves your health, it improves your wealth. Wow, you have just made it through all 12 weeks of my 90-day financial reset. Let's just take a second to appreciate what all you've taken on. In just 3 short months, you can have a financial house that has all of the basics covered, but also ensures that your future is getting the attention that it deserves. Because Gen X, the future is closer than ever. At the end of this 90 days, you don't just have more control over your money. You have a framework for building a future that you actually want to live in. Now, if you're the kind of person that likes having a plan in place, then don't stop here. If you want a copy of the 90-day financial reset checklist that I used in this video, I've put a free PDF of it in the description box below. You can download it, you can print it, you can follow it at your own pace. Thank you so much for going on this journey with me. I'll be back in a few days with a new video. Until then, I'll smell you later. Bye.